Hello, folks. Trans rights now. Trans women are women. J.K. Rowling is a transphobe. J.K. Rowling said nothing wrong. Chances are you've heard some of these and seen them online. If you would like to be in the know and understand how new media has affected activism surrounding these issues, have I got a video for you. There are currently issues around trans activism. Recently, there has been online turmoil about the Hogwarts Legacy video game release. This has caused discussions on social media over how it is affecting trans rights activism and therefore the well-being of trans people, and discussions about what it means to be an ally and an activist in general. The objective is to examine how new media activity shapes online activism and how misinformation, disinformation, and effective publics impact activism and its discourses on social media, using the Hogwarts Legacy debate, and then I will consider what this means for us now and what we can do about it. Because it can be a little overwhelming and confusing once we get online. A few definitions to get us started. Misinformation is information that is unintentionally faulty, such as when journalists make a mistake in their fact-checking or editing process. Disinformation is information that deliberately misrepresents facts, such as saying that Mickey Mouse is a cartoon frog. Fake news can be described as disinformation that is meant to appear factual or real and is usually spread for political purposes or other forms of gain. Confirmation bias refers to the selection of information that does or appears to confirm one's prior beliefs on a given topic. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological discomfort felt when confronted with information that does not confirm one's prior beliefs on a given topic. Effective publics are intense social forces composed of emotion-based narratives that pop up and create distinct yet connected responses to social situations. Slacktivism is the idea of useless activity that is done in the name of activism and makes one feel like they have done something helpful, yet is considered to be not helpful and lazy. Finally, cognitive reflection is the slow process of concentrated and effortful thinking, which can overturn a person's gut reaction to information. The background. When it comes to social media and politics, new media, and particularly social media, have been seen as new political spheres that can affect participation in social movements, such as by bringing those online to offline activities and by incrementally building up the movement. Yet, there have also been concerns about fake news on social media, where misinformation, disinformation, and confirmation bias can affect important decisions such as whether or not to get vaccinated. Trans rights on social media has recently seen fake news aimed against them in the form of a Twitter post. Specifically, one that talks about Aretha Franklin's song Natural Woman as being harmful to trans people. This tweet went on to different platforms and eventually news articles, which led to trans people having to hear a lot of backlash about how they just ask for too much, until finally it was debunked as a parody site. And even then, some are still unsure of how untrue that this was really meant. J.K. Rowling has had quite a history on social media, and she has written things that seem to be considered transphobic. And these are affecting political processes, such as GOP Senator quoting some of her words on the subject as support for the actions that he is doing that is against LGBTQ people. She has also tweeted in response to losing some fan support over these viewpoints and just saying how she considers her royalties as a form of support and comfort to her. She has also been posting pictures of herself against a Scottish gender recognition bill and framing it as being against women. The Gender Recognition Reform Bill in Scotland was designed to make there be less medical hoops for transgender people to have to go through in order to be recognized as the gender that they identify as. It also just changed the age to 16 instead of 18 for them to be able to go through this process. And BBC News covered how the UK is now blocking the Scottish Gender Confirmation Bill that was passed and included room to discuss J.K. Rowling's involvement in the issue. As such, she has been very influential with her social media presence on these actual topics. The current topic is about a game called Hogwarts Legacy, which is an actual role-playing game where people can immerse themselves in the wizarding world. And this has been long awaited by fans, and so it was expected to be widely and warmly received. However, with the concerns over JK's actions, there's become the question of who bought the game, who plays it, and what does any of it really matter in the long scheme? We have seen several forms of online activism over this, such as boycotting and or donating to charities, such as the Trevor Project, in response to the release. However, once boycotting was not seen as being very overwhelming with support, there began to be spoilers sent instead in response, and also people considering whether boycotting would have helped anyways. Here is our first forms of seeing a wave of effective publics, where there is the intensity storytelling of connected but not collaborative stories of victimization on either side. Specifically, transgender people started providing more of their stories of victimization to kind of express their reasoning behind the desire for the game to not be played. And we have examples such as here with Gardo, who is one of many presenting spoilers online and expressing how this is because he has friends who are receiving death threats. And then came harassment and some backlash. Harassment was considered to be happening for gamers who did choose to play the game. For example, one group was the Girlfriend Reviews couple who played Hogwarts Legacy on a Twitch stream. And while and after streaming, they did receive certain forms of harassment, such as getting their account restricted on Reddit and that they were put on a list of names of gamers who had played the game, which means they were being targeted and fearful for that. However, on the Twitch stream itself, there was more so misinformation and disinformation going around, such as different information on whether and what the game developers would get paid if the game did not sell well, different information about whether J.K. Rowling is supporting anti-trans rights activities, and there was some confirmation bias where they seemed to be avoiding any cognitive dissonance by avoiding arguments that were not harassment and only focusing on statements that appeared ridiculous to them. Girlfriend Reviews had to put out a YouTube video to respond to and clarify about the harassment that they had actually received versus what was being said, that they had been brought to tears and forced off of their stream because of hateful remarks, which they explained was not true. That they were expecting to have statements that would go against them playing the game, but that they expected this. However, we did see some more explicit cognitive dissonance from them where they did end up getting emotional over it and needing to justify their actions. We also saw cognitive dissonance in several videos, such as Cat Black's video talking about how many trans people are recounting instances of being asked to give permission to their friends to play this game so that their friends would not feel guilty about playing the game. And of course, we had backlash with trolls and or alt-right people saying they're going to buy the game or multiple now because of seeing the way trans activists have been behaving, and self-proclaimed allies saying how nothing is good enough for you people because of this. This became more questions of allyship. From trans entertainers, their views have been mostly talking about wanting solidarity, asking for their allies to come to their aid when requested, and to focus on harm reduction. However, they are seeing that those who appear unable to listen to these trans people asking them to not just play a single game to show solidarity during a critical point for trans activism, as instead these people are actually slacktivists, where they only will do what works for them until it is something that they disagree with. Then they are no longer wanting to participate. However, and from others' views, they see that what is the harassment of gamers on live chats as being misplaced and unhelpful activism that way. Overall, we're wondering, what are the effects? How does any of this, or could this affect the actual movement itself? On Reddit, there was a conversation about whether this was a bad look for the movement with all these issues about the game, and particularly seeing gamers as being harassed. There were discussions on whether this was extremist views compared to the general population of the group, and whether it was better to dismiss these and decide if it even was extremist, or if it was creating cognitive dissonance and so pushback, or if the opposition has been inflating what has occurred, i.e. fake news. There was also discussions on respectability politics, as in, are the affected publics appropriate and helpful to the cause? And some are seeing it as unhelpful and misplaced to connect trans rights with the sale of a game that was already expected to be extremely popular. And in Reddit, there was the discussions of visibility in general, since this is such a popular game and J.K. Rowling is so well known and connected to it. Does the good or bad of what has happened be helpful in the long run by just spreading trans right issues to a wider audience who may not know about trans rights much, but know about Hogwarts and J.K. Rowling? For Jessie Gender, she expresses how the politics and rights are being framed around media and influencers is perhaps not a good thing. They say that it's happening because it is consumable, because everything here is so well known. And on social media, this is where people spend a lot of their time, and so they're more likely to see it. However, once someone says something that is seen as misinformation or disinformation, it is seen as needing to be addressed, because otherwise it will spread to all these people on the platforms, which takes time away from other social movement pursuits. To which, presently, trans rights are still being discussed in the media, some of which is revolving around US bills banning gender-affirming care for not only children but adults as well, effectively trying to remove trans people from public. And in this instance, then, it may seem perhaps we're moving to the more important topics, the issues that many trans people have been trying to express throughout the Hogwarts debates. What can I do? Right now, a great way to deal with these issues is through cognitive reflection. This means taking your time with it. Mull it over when you read or hear something. Be critical and open to the information. This includes social media posts. Wait to respond. You can also do fact-checking by searching for more information and using a variety of sources. It is hard to find opposing views that are not just meant to polarize, but using cognitive reflection, it is one way to get the wider scope. As we can see, political activity does happen on new media. There has been a substantial amount and range of coverage over this singular topic. We have seen how the actions of one or a few can spread to other parts of the Internet, take to the streets in political stand, inform decision-making, and has led to discussions around what allyship and activism do or should look like, and where to focus one's time and energy. With strong emotions and a whirlwind of conflicting information coming at you in every website and app, it is critical to think critically and openly about what people have to say to determine one's own course of political action on topics as important as human rights. Thank you for watching.